All right. Hello. Today I wanted to show off Vermilion. It is a relatively new VR painting software, and it's pretty fun. This is the first time in for me, and just wanted to show you kind of the tutorials that I went through and just testing it out and how it performed. Right now, right off the bat, I'm having a little trouble with the menu. I didn't realize later on you can kind of shoot a little laser pointer to select things. I was actually trying to like grab the buttons on the flat rectangle and it kind of teleported me around there. Anywho, some similar programs to this, if you're into this kind of thing, Painting VR can be found on the Oculus Store, I believe. And the other one that came to mind is King Spray. Let's see, I think it's King Spray Graffiti VR, which isn't, so much brush to canvas. It's more you're spray painting with a spray can. But I haven't used it in a long time, so I'm not exactly sure what all the tools in that are like currently. Although I did note here that King Spray Graffiti VR is kind of abandoned on Steam. I think if you get it on Oculus, you get a more up-to-date version of it. And I think there's additional maps and stuff you can go to. Anyway, back to Vermilion. I went to an art school, and although I didn't study painting, I did, I just wanted to do everything art. And, every now and then I like to paint, usually acrylic. I mean, not usually, every time I've painted on canvas, it's been acrylic. I've never really gotten into the oil paints, but this was my chance to do it virtually. So I jumped at this new experience, and let's see here. I'm just kind of figuring out, going through the tutorials that they bring up. They were pretty helpful. Some things took a little time to kind of figure out. And in this video, I don't show everything that this program can do. There are some additional features that I didn't get to, such as you can play a video to the side, and you could watch a tutorial, a Bob Ross, something like that. You can also have just a picture to the side and look back and forth. But even cooler is you can overlay that image on your canvas, and you can kind of trace or use it for reference, for color, for composition. And I think it's this melding of kind of traditional art styles with digital art styles that makes this a really special experience, and I think opens up creating artwork in a new way that might be more optimized or efficient. So I'm really excited for this and what the future holds for this style of art creation. Let's see. In this video, I'm just going to create a really basic painting, just kind of to test it all out. Just a heads up, it's not the greatest painting, but it's more. This is just a testing the waters and seeing. Just kind of giving it my own initial stress test, I guess. I do want to make another video with this, and maybe make a painting that's more my type of painting. I think in this I just kind of do a grassy hill, sky, a tree, some birds, that kind of a thing. Which isn't usually what I paint. I usually paint kind of some abstract with kind of contrasting doodle areas. I can show some examples here. right, so I think this is showing off how to mix stuff and use the palette knife. I mean, I think you can use any of the brushes, but I think a palette knife is more optimized for mixing. You can, it just seemed to work better. Plus, I think there are features, and I'm not sure on this, but that you can, only with the palette knife can you sample paint from the canvas and bring it over to your palette. So you can really work with your initial, colors that you've put down in your painting. Like let's say you clear your palette, you want to, maybe the colors have gotten a little messed up or mixed up. You can clear it, or if you don't have space, you can clear it. But all the colors on the canvas still, you can still pull back out of your painting and put back on the palette if you need them again. So. I love how when you mix, on the paintbrush tips or the palette knife tip, it's really putting the paint where you rubbed on it. There's this real feeling like you're actually, moving your brush or palette knife, and it's actually picking up the paint where it should. It's very, they brought a lot of realism to this experience. So I think here I didn't even know what I was going to paint. I didn't have any plan. I think the tutorial told me to make a green, and this is the first time just putting something on the canvas, and I think I unconsciously just kind of created a horizon line. With the palette knife, which was very rough, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I should fill in the bottom half of this now with the green. Oh, I think I did learn, I kind of skimmed over it, or I didn't really address it, but you can choose all the basic standard kind of canvas sizes to work with. So if you were to, want to take one of your pieces that you made in this and print it on a, have it do a canvas print, it would be at the right size. You can save high-res versions. I did notice when you save it out and you really zoom in, you can kind of see some pixelization, but I think it's good enough resolution for if you wanted to print it on canvas at the size. So. And I think the way, if you see in the top right of the painting, that's kind of how you set the size. There's a little corner that you can kind of grab, and so initially you set the size of the painting, but then I think after that you can use that same thing, but it's just to zoom in and out of the painting. Which kind of reminds me of tilt brush. You can kind of increase your size or decrease your size to work, at different scales, and it's really great if you want to get in really close to get some detail, but if you want to zoom out to just do some really, a brush stroke that takes up half the painting, if you just want to quickly put some background paint in there. The paint does a really good job of feeling like paint that's on the canvas. Anything you put on the same layer of it will play with the paint that's already there. And paints will mix on the canvas, create new colors, new shades. I guess as you'd expect, but it's just, it feels magical in a VR experience to be doing this kind of stuff. Another thing is you can put paint on both sides of the brush. There's pressure sensitivity too, so the harder you press down with your brush, the more paint you're going to get on it. I think you can even just get it on just like the corner. Here I'm doing some little clouds. Another thing I should mention, and you probably, if you were paying attention to when I was doing the tutorials, you can, I think you press the down, well I'm using a HTC Vibe. If you press on the bottom part of the circle with your thumb, you can clear your brush. It just deletes any paint you have on your brush or the palette knife. And that's, you don't always have to paint it, but they do have ways you can paint it. Over to the right of the canvas, there's a kind of a rag area you can smack your brush against and it'll clean it off. And down below the canvas there is paint thinner, and that's not really for cleaning the brush. It's more you get your brush wet with that, put it to your painting, and it'll help mix colors together, mix and move around the paint that's already there. So I was kind of teleporting back. I wanted to see it from a distance. I think with doing this, I think I had the most fun doing the sky. I think the clouds kind of turned out the best of this. I mean, they don't turn out great, but I think with, not much time and just kind of doing these kind of motions with the brush, I got, something that looked relatively like a sky, and I was pretty happy. And I think if I played with it more, I could create a more dynamic sky with more colors, maybe a sunset. You can have different paint thicknesses on the canvas. You can have areas where the paint's been spread around so much it's very thin, or you can leave large kind of mountains of it. I think for the most part I was keeping my paint kind of thin. I'd like to experiment more with really loading up thick amounts of paint and kind of seeing how it behaves then. I think I mentioned earlier you can have different layers, which is great. I should have maybe made the green kind of grassy hill area a different layer than the sky. I think they're kind of blending together a little bit, yeah, especially right there on the right. Oh, and here I'm learning how to undo. I think my controller is a little glitchy, but I think I eventually found the button, the sweet spot. There we go. So you can undo an unwanted stroke. I think you can undo multiple times, if I believe. So you can go back. I don't know how far though. Okay, yeah, I think I mentioned this. The paint thinner is not for cleaning the brush. It's a way to kind of, yeah, you can make your paint a little more transparent. But I think it also helped with just mixing the paints too. think what I was trying to do here was I wanted the foreground to be brighter, and then it to get a little darker towards the hill, but I didn't really quite add enough, so it's very subtle. And I just end up kind of blurring everything together. I think there's something about if you want to create like a sense of depth, you have the kind of like a fog affecting what the background and the foreground, kind of creating different levels, different phases. I think also saturation disappears because kind of that fog effect. I didn't quite get into it here. Again, I'm just testing out, seeing how the brushes feel. I love the sound effects of this. I would advise, I think you can maybe play it without the sound effects, but there's something about hearing the paint brushes, and even when you dunk your brush into the paint thinner, it all adds to the experience. I think this is a feature that helps smooth your motions. I either wasn't activating it, or I was having trouble sensing it or doing it correctly. But if you get it to work and you notice it, I think that could be definitely helpful to have a steadier hand. I think later on when I'm trying to do some detail work, and I zoom in and I get a fine tipped kind of brush, it is really tricky to get some of the motions you want, and I ended up just undoing a lot, which is great to have that feature. But I think having a steadier hand, or it smoothing your controller's motions, could be very helpful. Oh, I think at this point I decided there should probably be a tree. I should test that out. So those initial little spots of paint on the palette are infinite, and I'm using the palette knife every time I try to select paint from one of those. I clear the palette knife because I think you can, if you bring color into that little infinite paint spot, it could kind of, what's the word, corrupt it or infect it. Maybe that's not the right word. Contaminate. There we go. Yeah. Oh, and one thing I didn't try, but I'd like to try, I don't know if you can mix paint on the back of the palette. If you could do that, that'd be kind of nice to have, you have double the space. I do need to explore, a lot of the ins and outs. I do want to do a future video, as I said, showing maybe a video or overlaying the image. But I think there are, in this menu here, I think there are ways you can save palettes. So if you already have, all the colors mixed on a palette you like, you can just import it and, load whatever palette in you want to use for, your painting, and I think that's great. That's just like, Photoshop, or it's really cool just seeing kind of the old and new mixing with creating these new tools that combine the great qualities of both. Um, Earlier in the tutorial, there's yeah, you can change your grip on the brush. I don't know if I mentioned that, and that's really cool because if you like to, you want to be holding the brush, uh, upright or upside down, or like a pencil, uh, or if you want to hold that way on the back and swing it around like a rowing oar. You have your choice of how you want to hold the brush, and that's great. I didn't expect that. I thought it would just be a standard. You're holding it, you know. But it makes sense that that's a great feature for them to implement. I think later in the video, I also noticed that you can not only move around the easel with the canvas and adjust its slant, or move it up or down or forward or backward. You can also move the place you put your palette there and your paint brushes to the right. You can move them up and down and left and right, forward and backward. So you can really set up your workspace the way you want it to be. So adding some little branches to this tree. And then I'll use the fan brush to put in some foliage on the tree. And I do want to come back to this and actually do like a Bob Ross tutorial, because I think that could be a lot of fun. I've never actually painted along with a Bob Ross video, and I think that'd be a nice, experience to do, especially when you can pause at any moment and, finish your work and then play again. I'm just deciding what color I want the leaves to be. I think I was going to do a green. I wanted to change a little bit, but then I started making a ugly color here that I wasn't happy with. Okay, here I'm zooming, or scaling down the painting to work with a smaller painting, so the fan brush will cover a little more area. I think that's the moment I was like, I'm not digging this leaf color. Oh, and I reset the palette, so I just hit one of the buttons on the controller and you can just reset it. Although you got to be careful you don't get rid of colors that you're working with when you do that. I think after I cleared it, I had wondered if I should, if it was a smart move to do or not. But like I was saying earlier, I think you can save palettes. So if you're really working on a big project and you want, to save every color you make, you can do that. And here I'm doing it on a third layer. So we have the background, grass and sky, and then we have the tree trunk and branches on the second layer, and then doing the leaves on the third layer. Now thinking back, maybe I should have done a slight variation on this color and then also just gone over it with the fan brush over what I've already done, just to add a little bit of difference in shade to the leaves. Maybe representing, you know, the lighter and shaded parts of the leaves. But here I decided to make kind of a highlight on top. I was kind of thinking partly difference in leaf color, but also just mostly just like the sun hitting it and kind of bouncing off. Okay, I think that was the leaf highlight on top. And I think, yeah, the fan brush I think has a lot more power. I think I didn't fully scratch the surface of what it can do. So I really, and I probably keep repeating myself, but I want to come back into this and try, you know, things that I've tried here, but a little more thoroughly and really, you know, find out what they can do. Oh, here I am pulling off paint from the painting, and you can put on your canvas, which is really cool because you can almost just kind of grow paint. I kind of just scratched a little bit off the paint and put on the canvas, and it's a great, you know, color picker kind of tool to have while doing oil painting. Oh, I think what I'm doing here is I selected the ground, and then I was like, I want to create kind of a shadow, and so that's why I add a little black to the green that I pulled. And I think I'm painting on the bottom layer, the grass layer, so that way I can kind of paint right underneath the roots. And the plan was I was just going to lay this down and just kind of really fuzz it, really blur it. Just give it a really subtle shadow. I think when I put the highlight on top, I kind of figured, I guess there's a sun kind of up in the sky, up above it, centered in the background. That's not in the painting, and it's hitting the top of the tree. Let's have a shadow casting towards the viewer. I'm just kind of trying to smudge it with the paint underneath, and I think because I had such a thin paint underneath, it was took a little more work to try to blend it in, but I think eventually it gets pretty well blended. Here I was struggling to I was trying to really get rid of the darkness. I was trying to blend in with the back and it wasn't quite working, so I added some more paint on top to try to get it back to that lighter green. Finally getting the effect I was going for, sorta. Seeing what this effect would do to the painting. Palette knife. I think it was adding kind of a little roughness that I felt was missing. Very subtle. A little patchiness like you would see in grass. Stepping back to take a look again. I think later on I play around with different kind of spectator modes. If you've seen any other videos of people using this, sometimes they have this one camera that just looks at the painting, and you can see the hands and the brush working on the painting. And then they'll usually speed it up, because if you have a painting that takes you a couple hours long, you want to show it in 5 minutes, you just speed it up. But it just slowly the camera kind of slowly pans back and forth just watching the painting, and that's pretty cool. And I might make a video with just using that, because it's a great way to just show the progression of a painting. But there's another spectator mode where it's the point of view like this, but it blurs the background. It just has like a depth of field effect going on. And I think I set it to that thinking it was the same as this. And I think I step back and I look at the painting, but the painting is just blurry. But in the game, it's not. In the game, I'm still seeing everything the way it's supposed to look. And there's one other spectator mode where it follows the brush. So wherever your hand, I think your right hand or left hand, depending on if you're right or left dominant, it follows that hand and whatever brush you're doing. And so it really zooms in close on the strokes you're doing on the painting. And I think these are great little features to implement into this software, because it makes it really fun and easy to show people your work and your work process in here. think I'm just trying to do little touches to the grass to make it look a little more interesting. But looking back, yeah, I should have done some more interesting stuff. But again, this is test painting. I just wanted to start using the brushes and feeling them out. Oh, here's where I play with the Spectator camera. So here is the, just kind of sitting back watching the painting. You can see the canvas and the brush just hovering, which makes it really nice. You can see through the person because they're not really there. Oh, I think I had seen the horizon line was blurred with the sky, and that was my fault for not going about it the right way. But just wanted to kind of fix that and create a harder line, a harder edge to distinguish the two. Although before it kind of had a cool, like, maybe foggy effect. But definitely on the right side there's some just green and blue mixed up in the sky. And I think I do something with that. Now I'm just blending in the stroke I did down into the green below it. Okay, here I'm trying to fix that sky part, I think. There we go. You can tell that the paint's thicker there. It kind of adds shadow to the thick paint. Oh, I think I still have some green kind of mixed up with the sky. Oh, that tool is the eraser. I never actually use it, but you just drag it around on your painting and completely clear spots. So easy cleanup if you really don't like something you did. You can just erase it, which is great. I thought about using it just to show it off, but then I didn't really want to erase anything. I like how the spectator mode follows the scale of your canvas. It shrinks, it zooms in on it, zooms out. If you move it up or down. I think I figured the green meadow, the green grass, was just way too consistently green. Looks kind of boring. I'll add in some little bushes or something, or little flower patches. I think the fan brush being so small, I always scale down the canvas to have it cover a little bigger of an area. Although I think you can change the tips of the paintbrush. You might be able to make the fan brush a little bigger. I'm just adding a little color to the top, like a little flower blossoms. Okay, I think I'm just about done with these little flowers. Oh, I just changed the perspective mode to follow the hand. Um, I guess there is no hand. Follow the brush, the brush tip. Now I'm planning one of the last little details I'll add to this test painting. Just gonna add some little birds in the sky, the quick little like M-shaped kind of birds. So I wanted to take some blue from the sky and just get it dark, so I added black. Now that this was kind of a frustrating part, doing the little detail work. I just kept doing a little stroke I didn't like, but I kept telling myself if this was a real painting, you know, there's no just undoing. So, gotta love the undo. Doing little birdie bodies in the middle. I think I'm just looking at it, planning. Okay, getting some more paint here. Oh, okay, I changed perspective mode again. This is that depth of field mode that really focuses on the painting and what's close. The rest of the room looks very blurry, but a good way to draw attention to the work. I think I had the most trouble with the last one because I was trying to make it the smallest bird or the bird the farthest way. Oh, I made a little mistake, so I cleared. Alright, yeah, good enough, I guess. Here I am. So in the while I'm in there, I'm seeing it cleared, but it looks all blurry the farther away. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I thought the tree looked a little too plain, too one-dimensional. So I wanted to give it a little detail, a little texture. So here I'm pulling the tree color, putting on the canvas. I clear the palette knife, grab some black, mix it with the brown. I wanted kind of like a bark color. Plus, I know that this side of the tree is in the shade, so maybe it should be a little darker or have some darkness. The palette knife was pretty good for that kind of rough texture. Just getting the little root tips. Well, I guess the tips are underground, but the above root tips, I guess. I think I'd forgotten that I could go under the leaves. The leaves are on their own layer. So I was trying to avoid going over the leaves. I didn't have to. So you have a little canvas, sorry, the palette and its stand. You can move around, move up and down. I know I already mentioned that, but there I was demonstrating a little. Oh, I think I had some crazy idea of adding some, not crazy idea, but adding some God Ray like effects. But then I bailed on the idea. So I think I went on a new layer. Was just thinking like, how can I do this? And then I figured it'd probably take too long for me to do it in a way that looked good. So I figure I should just quit where it is. I think I'm right now wondering, is there anything else I should add? I was kind of just looking around thinking, yeah, just testing out that brush. Oh, actually, I'm going to use that brush to do a little signature. Looks a little rough, but I was okay with that. Oh, yeah, the C kind of looks like a G a little bit. Whatever. All right, with that, this is the painting. Um, Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you, if you're interested in this, you find a way to experience this. And yeah, I'd recommend it. It was fun. It's definitely my kind of thing in VR. I think anything art related with VR, I'm curious about. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.